I'm going to call the meeting to order and
hang on. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask that we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. All right, I just want to read this notice because this is sort of unusual times. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the Executive Order 102.1, members of the public are not permitted to attend the board meeting tonight in person. Members of the Board of Education are attending the meeting remotely via Google Meet. The meeting can be viewed via live stream on March 25th, 2020 at www.eastaurora.org/BOEMTG live or via the link on our main district webpage. In addition, the meeting will be recorded and transcribed at a later date. For anyone that has a comment or a statement that would like to be read during visitors' comments this evening, they can email the Board of Education at boe@eak12.org. We had asked that those emails take place prior to 6:45 p.m. this evening. And the district clerk or myself will read those comments during the appropriate time in the meeting. May I have a motion from one of our board members to enter executive session to discuss the following matters? A matter related to two particular corporations, the employment history of four particular employees, as well as the negotiations with the East Aurora Faculty Association and the Civil Service Association. May I have a motion?
Kim, so moved.
Second by John.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I think it might be easier if we did a roll call on that. Could I have aye by individual board members? Kim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Jessica?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Jackie, that's all in favor. We will now enter executive session.
So at this point, please leave this room.
All right.
Terry, either hit the red hang up or just X
Yep.
out on top. All right, Dennis, we're clear here.
We're live.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dennis. I appreciate that. The Board of Education is hosting their meeting this evening via Google Meet in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, as we indicated on our prior notice. The link is on our district webpage for folks who want to listen in live. And we are currently live. We are returning, the Board of Education is returning from executive session where we discussed matters related to 2 particular corporations, the employment history of 4 particular employees, and the negotiations between the East Aurora Faculty Association and the Civil Service Association. Mr. Ross, are there any agenda changes this evening?
No, there's not.
And we'll go right to superintendent's comments.
Okay, yep, I'd like to just kind of bring the board up to speed and share kind of the progress we've made over the last several days, and now it's turning into weeks. The district is responsible for 3 basic ongoing supports for our community, and they are the educational programming, providing food to our students and their families, and also assisting with childcare for medical workers and emergency responders. And so I'll just give you a brief update on the first 2, which is the educational program. This was our first priority, and I have to say that the teachers, administrators, and support staff have just done a fantastic job in the preparation of our educational programs, K through 12. K through 8, we sent out 1,200 educational packets to our students. We did this by setting up a day for pickup, where it was just like a drive-through process. And I have to say, I couldn't believe how smoothly it went. I was here with Matt at the middle school, and Jessica and Matt Leibrock were at Parkdale, leading a group of teacher aides and teachers who volunteered to come in to indeed pass out these packets to the families. We were able to complete it in 1 day, and like I said, it went very, very smoothly. The quality of the lesson planning has been excellent, and the communication between our teachers and their students has also been, just rock solid. Just lots of compliments from our families as they came through the line. We were able to maintain a safe distance, which was really nice. We handed the packets from the sidewalk through their window of their car, so it kept that 6 feet distance between us and them, and it just worked almost perfectly. I mean, it was an incredible amount of work to make it happen. Our teachers started on the Friday before the Monday that we closed. We had a planning session for all the grade level and department chairs. They were together with the administrative team to come up with a plan to bring back to the rest of the teachers. On Monday, we had a planning session. And we had a planning session where they were able to prepare the lessons, and they were able in those 2 days, and they were working on it prior to that as well, but that's when it really, the rubber hit the road. They were able to pull all the packets together, distribute Chromebooks, and also put up online activities. Really, honestly, K to 12. Most of the online activities are 7 through 12, but there's still a number of online activities, K through 6, and all of it was pulled together in a very short period of time. And like I said, the quality of the instruction has really been quite excellent. And like I said, just a lot of positive feedback from parents. At this time, I'd like to say any comments from the 3 principals on that?
Jessica, go ahead.
Yep, I'll go. Yep. You pretty much covered everything. I've been in constant contact with my advisory team, and we're keeping the Google Classrooms up to date. I've had special area teachers add videos. The teachers themselves are adding videos, so you have that personal connection. They're able to see their teachers reading stories or telling them about their day or something like that. But I mean, nothing new. I think Brian covered it, unless anybody has questions.
I would agree with Jess in the middle school, and the supply drop-off went really, really well.
Yep.
It was almost like we've done it before, but we obviously haven't. But yeah, we've been in constant contact with the teachers. They're doing a phenomenal job of keeping those connections with students. So, so far, so well. Very proud of how everyone's handled it to this point.
Thanks. Mr. Roberts?
And from the high school, just a thank you to Brian and Mark for the proactive approach. Our teachers felt prepared. Because our teachers felt prepared, our students were prepared as much as they could be for transitioning to this new style of instruction and learning. And then with the support of Joanne and Rich and their crew, it's been as smooth a transition as we could have, all things considered.
Yeah, it's gone beautifully. And I'm sorry, Bill, did I cut you off?
No, as this has progressed, just a thank you to our teacher aides and our custodians, that really the boots on the ground, and the teachers who continue to refine their presentation of instruction. So a lot of people working very hard to do the best that they can, considering the constraints that have been put on them.
Let me just chime in and express some thanks on behalf of myself and as the board president. From a parent's perspective, I have to say, when I talked to Brian early on, I thought that this was going to be a really daunting task and couldn't imagine how it would get done. But with respect to the instructional piece of what we're obligated to provide, it has been nothing short of impressive, I will say, to see you and your teaching staff, your administrative staff, and all the support staff be able to put that together, get our instructional materials in the hands of our students in very short order. I even had a teacher show up at the door to be able to make sure that a student had received, additional materials that couldn't come a little bit earlier. So it's just been a rather impressive sight to see. I think I said it in an email that we always knew we had such dedicated people. And so while it's not surprising, I think it's just kudos to you, Brian, and absolutely everybody on the team to make that happen. And as smoothly as it did, it is nothing short of impressive.
Mary Beth, just a quick question for Brian and the three principals relating to this. It sounds as though there continues to be an interactive component to this learning. And that was one of the things I would imagine was most challenging, to figure out how there could be communication back and forth between the learners and the teachers. So is that happening on a regular basis and with most of the learning situations?
And I'll just jump in. Thank you to the board and to Brian and Rich and Mark and Joanne again. The Chromebook, the combination of the Chromebook and Google Classroom has put us in a position to leverage those assets. And like you said, Dan, teach in a way that's best possible considering the situation. So we have a lot of teachers who are either pre-recording their instruction. Some are attempting to do it live through either Google Meet or even a Zoom technology. Not all are doing that, but I think that number will continue to grow as it shows to be successful.
Thank you.
Yeah, very similar at the middle school. We're doing more videos than the live chat. So for example, many grade levels, each video or each morning, a different teacher is sending a video to all the students in the grade level, kind of explaining the goal of the day. So I can tell you the feedback I've heard from our teachers that there is engagement and that it's going very well. And the other thing that's exciting at the middle school aspect is by early next week, every single student have that equitable opportunity for learning, which is obviously extremely important.
Wow, that's great.
It's fantastic that we can equalize that, because it's certainly not capable to have that happen elsewhere.
Very true.
And
I'm so
Mary
glad.
Beth- Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm so glad that we were able to get the Chromebooks this year. It was perfect timing.
And Mary Beth, if I could just kind of follow up with what Dan was asking, for the children that potentially maybe don't have as much guidance at home, or their family situation is really challenging in terms of making sure that they're able to still at least, continue? Has that, how has that been addressed, and what are we doing from that perspective? And have you seen, a lot of that from, it's only been a short time, but.
I can say this, Kim, and there's, so those, if I don't know if you're speaking of this piece of it, but our counselors are reaching out to their students on a regular basis. They've sent, I think I forwarded some of the information that they're sharing with our students in regard to managing difficult times, or if they're struggling personally. But there's also an ability for them to reach out to their counselors as well as their teachers. I don't know if anybody has anything to say about that.
Yeah, Kim.
Yeah, just briefly, thank you for sending that, Brian, because I spent quite a bit of time the other day watching the penguins at the San Diego Zoo on their webcam, and it calmed me down significantly. Thank you.
That's good to hear.
Kim, from the high school standpoint, with the use of the Google Classroom, teachers are able to monitor student interaction and interaction time. And if they're seeing that students are not participating, they're reaching out to the families. Our school counselors are, and I'm included in those emails as well. And if need be, I'll get involved. So there's a process in place to make sure that all of our students are participating.
Great, thanks. And does that also apply then through the middle school and Parkdale, a process in terms of this?
Yes.
Yeah, we had all of our families picked up. We're doing a combination of paperwork and electronic, and every single one of our families picked up the packets last week. We had a couple who didn't come. We delivered them in person. And then as far as Google Classroom, we're giving parents today to sign up on their own. And if they haven't, the teachers are reaching out to those families individually to encourage them to sign up, because there's a lot of information on there and a lot of videos that the kids can watch. So pretty much the same as the high school.
Yep.
Great.
And what Jess said, you can just ditto that for the middle school. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say that it's, and I think somebody mentioned it before. Rich and his crew, the one-to-one Chromebook initiative was a huge undertaking. And we just, we had some one-time funds. Now it's over more than a year ago. And we thought we were making progress with getting out more and more Chromebooks, and there was a desire across the board, K to 12, for more technology. And so we decided to go for it. And I have to say, that's really been what's made all the difference. Just to being able to facilitate that, K to 12 has been just a godsend. And I would say this: what we found is that even though most of our families have a device at home, they realize that when they have 2 or 3 kids at home, they could use an extra device. So we've had a lot of requests from K to 4 and 5 to 8 because the 7th through 12th graders take them home, but K to 6 does not. But many of them have asked for those Chromebooks, and we've been able to deliver them to them. It's been very, very positive.
Just to clarify, Brian, our 5th and 6th graders don't have their Chromebooks yet.
Yeah.
But they will by early next week. We're going through that tomorrow and Friday. So they'll all have them by early next week.
Okay.
So just wanted to clarify that.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, so any other questions about the educational program? Okay, so then the next step was food service. And so again, one of our obligations is to do whatever we can to provide breakfast and lunch to our students, and not only our students, but to all children between the ages of 5 and 18, and even those that are between the age of 0 and 4, if they so request. And so what Joanne did with Iris, as we were preparing for this, they started talking about the possibility of an opt-out program where we would deliver food to all families within the district that had children of those ages. Well, we first started out, I'll say this, through 5 to 18, and then we made requests for those families between 0 and 4. And so we looked at an opt-out program, which they were able to pull together. And so First Student, Personal Touch, really just stepped up, and they're able to provide us with enough food to provide breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. And we're also going to be able to provide food over the spring recess. And so it's gone very, very well. We've been working with First Student, our transportation provider, and they've also done an excellent job because they had to come up with all new routes for their bus drivers. So we're using a fleet of 15 buses, which is almost our entire fleet. And we're delivering meals 2 days a week on Tuesday. And the meals are for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then on Friday, we deliver again. And those meals are for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And so we've done one run on Friday and one run on Tuesday. Friday's run went really well, and Tuesday's run went even better. And so again, thanks to Mark for coordinating the runs. He's there in the morning working with Iris, our food service director, and our team of aides. And we've also had teachers come in to volunteer that are making the deliveries, along with our bus drivers who are driving the routes. And so Mark coordinates that activity every morning. And it certainly is an interesting process, but it's worked incredibly well. And so just very grateful for that. And also just very grateful for Joanne, who's probably got 100 hours into actually pulling this whole thing together. It's just been enormously time consuming, but it's been enormously successful. Lots of thank yous from our parents and people posting thank you notes in the windows and on their doors when we do drop off. And so the drop off is what we do is we just knock on the door and we place the packages on their porch primarily. There's a few that are a little different that are placed at the mailbox, but the vast majority are placed on the porch, and then the person walks away so that there's that social distancing that we're trying to maintain. Again, we're going to, our next run is this Friday, and I'm sure that will be as successful as it has been in the past.
And Brian, how many meals have you delivered on those couple of days?
Yes, we're looking at on Tuesdays. It will be, Mark. What's the number again on Tuesdays? I think it's. Do you know that?
Yeah, we're about 10,500 meals every Tuesday and just under 14,000 meals every Friday. So we're prepping, the kitchen is prepping around 25,000 meals per week. And that includes a breakfast and a lunch for any child under 18, regardless of school, that lives within our boundaries. Parents can, those that were in our school can opt out, but anyone who was not part of our roster can opt in. But basically, we're pulling 25,000 meals a week out of the middle school cafeteria for this purpose.
Brian, does it make a difference whether you opt out or not as far as money for the district?
Yeah, there is a reimbursement rate, Terry, for each meal. Parents have actually asked me about that because they were saying, some parents have contacted me and said, I was thinking of opting out because, but I would stay in if it's advantageous to the district. And I've told them, please make that decision based on your personal needs. And, and they were concerned about, people like losing their jobs, and now the people are able to work and deliver the food. We are indeed able to pay them, which is a great thing for everyone. But again, if one or two people or whomever wants to opt out, opts out, it's not going to impact the overall program, because as you can see, Mark, as Mark was explaining, we're delivering about 25,000 meals a week. So if it's 24,500, or even if it's 20,000, it's just relative. We want to provide the service to those people who are certainly in need, and that's what I've explained to them, and they've seemed to be good with that.
Brian,
Yeah.
there's more than one kind of need out there. I have to tell you what my first grade grandson said.
Okay.
He loves seeing the bus come because it feels normal then, Nana.
Yeah.
So I think there's that whole side to it too. And the teachers coming out of those buses carrying that food toward the house just makes their day. So kudos to all the teachers that have volunteered too.
Yes. You know what, Judy, it's interesting too, because when we were greeting people in the morning, when we were doing the educational packets, many of them said to me, it's just good to see all of you. You know, that it gives us a sense of normalcy that, you know, when we're there and greeting them and saying hello and kind of reassuring them, it really does make them feel better. There's no question about it. And Jess is doing her morning announcement every day and sending it off to families. And the middle school and high school are also doing those types of things as well. We're preparing some like just kind of general connections to the families that are kind of fun, you know. And so today, Matt did a little something more around like an introduction of Matt Leibrock, because you know, since he's been here, it's been periodic, and so the kids, they've seen him, but it hasn't been on a formal basis. So Matt Brown kind of introduced him formally today, and they spent some time online just kind of greeting the kids. And then the same thing for Bill. They're planning some online kind of fun activities with the kids, and we're also working with our PTO, putting something together again to reach out to families on a weekly basis just to maintain those connections.
It's perfect. Thank you.
If I can just jump in on the communication side, all those things that Brian referenced, if you go to our main website, www.eastaurora.schools.org, a button will pop up it's our COVID cover page. And on that, you'll have links to everything that has been sent out building-wide and district-wide. So it's a great resource for the community and for parents, but also things like Jess's morning announcements. If you want to hear her joke of the day, that's where you can find it. But it's a one-stop shop for the community. Anything, obviously not one-on-one communication, but any mass blast at any level are all being documented right there. And when you go to our website, it'll pop right up on that page for the community.
Fantastic work, everybody. It's just an unbelievable amount of work in a very short period of time to get all of that done. It is just, we're not number one for nothing.
Yeah. No, they've done I have to say, the administrative team has just done a phenomenal job leading the way. I've gotten some feedback from teachers about how grateful they were for their like calm reassurance and the compassion that they've used in helping them to move through this process, because it's very unsettling for them. You know, they care deeply about their students and about their work. And something like this has never happened, I don't think, to any one of us. And so it's uncharted waters. And they have said to me that they're just really grateful for the administrators' leadership and that kind of that reassurance that they've given them has gone a long way to help them to move through the process as well. And so just very grateful for their work.
I also want to just thank you, Brian, because it's, you know, we're all living through this right now, but in addition to providing all those services for our students and you know, the instructional piece and the lunches, that you and your team are doing it in a way that also keeps in mind your own personal health and safety, and to see that the instruction packets were handed out and people were staying a safe distance apart, to see the lunches getting delivered and people ringing doorbells but not having, you know, hand-to-hand communication with folks. You know, it's keeping yourself and your administrators and your staff all safe, but providing the service in the best way we can. So thank you for that as well.
And then just one more comment on the childcare. That's been a work in progress. And so tomorrow we're going to be sending out a survey to our parents and to community members for all health-related people in the health industry, also first responders, which is a very long list, like of essential personnel that need to report to work so that our services can be maintained within the community. So we're going to be working with working here and using our system to share that information, but also hopefully working with the advertiser to see, and the B, to see what they can do in helping us to communicate with families who are indeed in need of childcare so that they are able to report to work. So we'll be working with local providers, the Boys and Girls Club, and so that's, again, it's been a work in progress, and the direction from the state hasn't been completely detailed. So we're kind of getting more and more information day by day, but we'll be sending out that survey tomorrow.
Right. Does any board member have any comments?
Yeah, Brian, just a question for Brian. Just to be clear, the people who may qualify for some assistance with childcare include healthcare workers, but also anyone who is on the list of essential employment, which could include workers from grocery stores or from other essential services, pharmacies, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. Right. So it's a long list that's provided by the state, and so we'll be sharing that list through our communication and on our website. And again, I'm trying to see if we can work with the B and the advertiser to see what they could do to also publish that list so that we get it out to as many people who do qualify as possible.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other board member before we move on? All right, Brian, did you have more in superintendent's comments?
No, I think that's it.
All right, we're going to move on then to board presidents and board members' comments. Beyond just echoing a 1,000 thanks to everybody who's gotten us this far in this process. I did receive in advance of tonight's meeting a visitor comment from Mr. Grisani from the East Aurora Faculty Association. He's president of that association. I want to just read that letter from him. It says, I would like to thank the administration for their decisive action taken to assemble the teaching task force to address the issues regarding education during this time of social distancing. I especially want to recognize the efforts of the East Aurora Faculty Association membership who have stepped up in both their efforts to learn and then teach remotely and to volunteer to deliver the necessary food and supplies to the district's students and families. It is times like these where the true passion of the teachers of the East Aurora are visible. Whether it's making over 3,000 phone calls to encourage community members to vote in favor of a tax cap override so that students can have increased opportunities, or to phone bank in favor of pro-education school board candidates, or negotiate a new healthcare provider, or hold a rally on the steps of the middle school to fight for education, the membership has stepped up. All because teachers care for the students and families of East Aurora. So in this anxious new time, it is admirable, but not surprising, that the teachers of the East Aurora Faculty Association have stepped up again. Thank you to the Board of Education, thank you to the administration, and thank you to the teachers and staff for all your efforts. Larry Grisani, East Aurora High School Science and East Aurora Faculty Association President. And while Mr. Grisani thanks and outlines the efforts from this East Aurora Faculty Association, I'm sure that if we had asked the presidents of the other negotiating teams, that we would have seen similar letters from our civil service union and our administrative union about the efforts on behalf of everybody. This approach to education, this response to the pandemic has been across the board from every one of our stakeholders in the district, from every employee at civil service to every teacher in the district and to every administrator on your team, and Mr. Ross, you at the helm. I think I've said it 1,000 times, I'll say it again, it has been impressive. And on behalf of everybody on the Board of Education, I just want a thank you to go out to everyone for their efforts in getting all of that done. I'll move on then from my end. Board presidents and board member comments and committee reports. Mrs. Armbruster, did you have any comments this evening?
Nothing but a huge thank you to all of you. As everyone has said, you've shown yourselves to be exactly who we knew you were. Superheroes. I'm blown away. Thank you.
I'm going to go around the table as if we were sitting at it. Mrs. Ohlweiler.
No, nothing other than echoing the same sentiments of thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who is stepping up to the plate and doing everything to make our students have a normal school day as much as everyone possibly can. Thank you.
Mr. Seghetti.
No comments. Thank you, everybody.
Mrs. Malice.
Thank you so much. You folks are just terrific. You always have been and you always will be. Thank you again.
Mr. Brunson.
Well, thank you to everyone involved. We'll get through this together. It's we've never seen anything exactly like it, but we've had challenges, and we pull together and we get through it. And in particular, I'd like to just mention all the folks that helped make this meeting possible tonight. I would never have thought that I could have participated in a virtual meeting, and I'm pushing the right buttons, and it's not because I know anything. It's because of Dennis and Mark and all of the other folks who helped make this happen. So big thank you for all of that.
And Ms. Daniel.
Again, I just join with everyone, thanking everyone for all of their efforts in this challenging time.
I do want to echo Dan's comments and thank the tech side of things this evening, because while we had Chromebooks for every student in the district, the Board of Education had not received theirs yet, and we made that happen in very short order, and to get everybody up to speed on how to be able to access the agenda this evening, the supporting documents for that, and to be able to participate in a meeting telephonically and by video is fantastic in short order. So thank you, Dennis, and to Mr. Mambretti and to all the rest of the folks, Mr. Clements, for getting this all done for us.
Yeah, I know. I just, again, Rich and Dennis too is and the whole crew, though. I mean, it's not just Dennis, it's the whole technology crew. They've done a fantastic job, but Dennis has kind of been out in front helping us with these types of connections that really have allowed us to continue to do our business. And so we would have been really hard pressed to continue this meeting without this technology, and it's just gone perfectly. Yeah, thank you.
All right. We are moving on in the agenda to administrators' comments. Is there any administrator who would like to additionally address the board? Ms. Lyons.
No, I think everything was covered about how things are going. I have nothing additionally.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
I would agree. Just other than thanking everyone, and it really has been impressive. And the one person, I know we've said thank you, but Brian, his leadership is just head and shoulders above what I've ever seen, and really leading us through this. It's almost like it's normal, like we're working together and we're dealing with these obstacles, and just the team that we have all across the board. I mean that from the board to the administrators, teachers, everyone. It's really special. I really believe that.
Thank you. Mr. Roberts.
And the same, I think we've thanked all of the groups that have played such an important role, and I especially like the signs of solidarity. Mr. Brown shaving his head. I know that Mr. Russ is next on the list to do the same. So to continue to show our strength and unity, we're looking forward to seing that, Mr. Russ.
Yes. Okay.
I can always count on you for a little levity.
Exactly.
I'm going to just go through the administrators that are present this evening. Mr. Corella, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just unmuting here. Sorry. No, I just reiterate, everyone really stepped up. I was there on the Friday working with all the teacher aides, and, just to see them all step up and pack those buses, find the addresses of students to get those supplies out to all the students was remarkable. And, I would get emails, from a couple of our aides just saying, how could I help? What can I do to step up? I want to be part of the solution. So I think just across the board, we've seen everyone just step up, all for a good cause. And I'm just so proud to be part of it.
Thank you. Mr. Polakowitz, did you have anything? You're on my list here.
Thank you. No, I just want to thank the team. It's been a tremendous opportunity to be part of such a great team. Everybody worked together, still work together, and moving forward. We're not through this yet, and we will get through it, and we will get through it successfully. It's just been a wonderful experience to work with such a good group of people.
Thank you. Mr. Wicks?
Yep. Yeah, it's great to be part of this team. I think everybody here, as Brian writes, it's amazing to just see it all come together the way it has. Did that come through?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. I'm looking at my list. I don't want to leave anybody out that wants a chance to say something. Mr. Clements, you're on my list as
Thanks,
well.
Mrs. Silver. What a proud moment in the depths of all of this. What a team I have. And Mr. Hirschfeld, talk about grace under pressure. It's so impressive. I'm just so proud to be part of this community, and just, this is really bad, but.
Are you there?
Yep, no, I'm here.
All right.
Yeah, no, just echo it all. I think just in terms of our reach, Dan talked about the meeting. We're having about a dozen people or so watch us at home. So obviously the wheels of democracy are still rolling, and we appreciate that. And I think the only person we failed to thank is our spouses and significant others. We talked about the strength of this team, but we all know it starts at home, and we often spend more time with other people's children than we do with our own. But as most of the world has shut down, we've been actually probably working double time. And so just a shout out to my wife and everyone else's wives and husbands and significant others, because without that, the team crumbles. So shout out to all them.
Thank you. And Ms. George, I'm not leaving you off the list. All right. I think we're going to hear from Joanna at the budget time too, so I'm sure if she has more to say, we'll hear from her then. Moving on then to visitors' comments. The only visitors' comment we received in advance of the meeting was the letter that I read from Mr. Grisani with respect to my, which I read during board president comments. We are moving on then in the agenda to the reports and discussion items, and that's the draft 4 of the preliminary 2021 budget. Mr. Ross and Ms. George are going to present that budget. And Mr. Mambretti, if I'm right, we did receive a PowerPoint in advance, and everybody should have access to that PowerPoint on their computers.
Correct. And just for all of you and for the people at home, the PowerPoint will now take over your screen. So you'll hear Brian and Joanne speaking, but we'll roll through the PowerPoint. Brian and I have tried to choreography this a little bit, but we'll go where we go. Just a reminder for people in the meeting, your face will not pop up during the PowerPoint, so just identify yourself when speaking, just so we could put names and voices together. But I'm going to call upon Dennis and switch over here. If we can just hang on 1 second. All right, Dennis, if you can chime in and just let me know that that PowerPoint is now on the YouTube.
Looks good.
The YouTube. You're dating yourself, Mr. Mambretti.
Dan, I can't see it on my screen.
You should be able to select it from the left-hand sidebar.
Left-hand sidebar. Left-hand sidebar. Is it under meeting details?
No, Brian, click on one of the two Mark Mambretti's, and one of them will be the PowerPoint. The other one will be my face. I suggest you pick the PowerPoint, and then click the pin, the push pin, and that should bring it up to your screen.
Thank you. Okay. Wrong one. Sorry. There you go. Oh, no, hold on.
Right side, sidebar.
I'm sorry?
Right side, sidebar.
Yeah, right side. Yeah, I figured that out. Yep, right side. Okay. So the pin is just showing the icon. Oh, there it goes. Yep, I got it. Thank you.
And it shows up on my screen, Brian, so I'm assuming the rest of the meeting participants have it on their screen as well.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so here we are. The budget development, our first go at this. It's been a little bit of a slower process just because some of the information coming from the state and from BOCES was delayed. And then what's really set us back is the last couple of weeks dealing with the COVID-19 situation. But we're really, we're making progress and we're ready to move forward. And we're very confident over the next couple of meetings, we'll be able to pull this together and have a good balanced budget to present to the public in May or maybe in June. We'll see where that's going to go. Okay, go ahead, Mark. So here it is. Here's the agenda. We're going to just take a look quickly at our values and vision, the budget development considerations, the finance committee update, what we've talked about at our finance committee meetings. We'll look at the tax levy, the rate and equalization, also the levy limit calculation. And then we'll look at our long-range priorities, which we've been doing over the last several meetings. And then we'll just look at what's to come on the budget development calendar. So here it is. Our values and visions, as we talked about in every meeting, are really the guiding force for our decisions as we develop the budget for the 2021 school year. This has been a great process for the district, and it's really set us on I think a course that has been very successful and has brought the district together, especially during the difficult times of the last several years. And so again, this will be kind of the guiding force behind our decision making. Here's our considerations. First and foremost, we are completely committed to the interests and needs of our students. That's always our first priority. We're going to use good care and judgment as we spend the resources that our community gives to us. We're committed to doing this openly, and I guess this is a testament to doing this type of meeting and continuous improvement. We always want to look towards the future so that we can set up the best programming for our students. So the Budget Finance Committee agenda, we started way back in August. And this has been a great process. I think it's really allowed us. We have 3 board members that sit on the committee, along with Mark, Joanna, and myself. And so it's really given us a long time to kind of discuss what's currently going on in the district and what we hope to achieve over the next budget process. So you can see here, we met again in January and February. We met twice. And then we were hoping to meet, and just because of our schedule and again, the COVID situation, we weren't able to meet this last time. So here we are, we're rebuilding our finances. Over the last several years, a couple of years ago, we were the most fiscally stressed district in the state, and that has improved for a variety of reasons. It's everybody working together. It's working with the administrative team. Joanna's done a brilliant job managing the finances, but also working with our teachers, our civil service group, our buildings and grounds, all the people that are in the organization to try to right the ship, to find a balance between adding additional programming, reducing class size, but also being as fiscally responsible and rebuilding our reserves and our appropriated and unappropriated fund balances. So here it was, the most, our roughest year was the 16-17 school year, where we were considered the most fiscally stressed in the state. But you can see in 17-18 and 18-19, and then again in July of 19, that has continued to improve significantly. So here is where we are right now. In December of 2017, we had a score of 73.3, making us the most fiscally stressed. That was reduced the next year to 28.3. And then now, January of 2020, our rating came out at 10. But you can see if we look at other schools in Western New York, we're still twice as fiscally stressed as the average Western New York school. So we still have some room, some work to get done here. So the tax levy limit calculation, we know how complicated it is, and off to the left-hand side is all the factors that go into the calculation, which Joanne works on over a several month period. This information comes into us, and so finally here it is. And what that does is it shows our tax levy limit right now at 5.21%. And so there's a number of things and factors that have changed over the last several months. But we've finally gotten, since we've gotten the state's decision on our BOCES facilities project, now we're able to estimate it accurately at 5.21%. And so here's our projections, and we've looked over the last several years, and you can see if you look under the 18-19 budget planning forecasted, we thought it was going to be closer to 7.25%. Last year, we said, no, it'll be closer to 4.75%. And this year, it's coming in at 5.21. So you can see there's some dramatic changes that happen over a 2-year period. But that's related to a number of financial factors, not only locally, but also at the state level as well. So here it is, the tax rate history, and I think this is something that we're glad to see, is that the tax rate, you can see increase is below the levy at 4.15%. Again, there's a lot of factors that are that go into calculating this, and so New York still has not posted the new rates for equalization. You can see in the center chart, and then there's also is assuming equalization rates remaining the same at 1.0104%. So there are some assumptions with this. So this does change, usually slightly when it's actually set, but we just don't get that information until later on in the year. So here's our reserve funding. Again, part of our plan is to replenish our reserves. As we went through the fiscal crisis of the GEA, we pretty much depleted our reserves across the board. That led us to being one of the most fiscally stressed districts in the state. And you can see here how we've been building them up over a period of years. And for right now, if you look at the 19-20 where we are, there will be some slight adjustments in certain areas, like in technology, also in the capital area. And let's see, also in the unappropriated fund balance. So there will be some slight adjustments, but nothing too significant this year. Again, trying to find balance between replenishing our reserves, restoring positions, reducing class size, and also managing the tax levy and the tax rate increase to the best of our ability. So we talked about our gap last time, and it was over $800,000. So we were able to cut it in half. Under normal circumstances, we would like to have gotten this completely balanced, but with the circumstances at the state, in terms of receiving accurate information, some information that we need to review through BOCES, and then of course the last 2 weeks dealing with the COVID-19 crisis, it's put us a little bit behind schedule. But like I said, over the next few weeks, as we approach our April 8th meeting, I'm confident that we'll be able to pull together a very solid and balanced budget. So you can see here some of the changes that we're anticipating for this year, from 19-20 to 2021. We can see some salary increases, which are typical, some reductions in the areas of fringe benefits, supplies, and contractual. And that, once again, has helped us to get the gap closer to that $400,000 mark. BOCES, again, we're going to be looking at that, the $811,000 differential between the 2 years. So we're hoping that we can, that number will be much tighter and will help us to close the gap for next session. So here it is revenues. And so looking at what the revenues look like, again, we're just focused on that $417,000 gap. Property tax items, we're looking at a increase of about 5.25%. Again, state aid less building aid is projected to go up by about $632,000. We're thinking that we're going to get another $100,000 in sales tax, which is, I think, kind of conservative because sales taxes come in so strong this year. Miscellaneous revenues, and then appropriated fund balance of $258,003 from the appropriated reserve. And then just maintaining our appropriated fund balance. We're looking at going from $886,148 to $418,148. Again, that $418,000. We increased it for 1 year last year as we were trying to manage the levy and the increase in taxes, knowing that we would get back down to the appropriated fund balance where everybody feels much more comfortable, right around that $400,000 mark.
Can I just step in and ask a question on the sales tax revenue? Brian, it's Mary Beth.
Yes.
Are we at all, in light of the pandemic and the hits to the economy and the closures of businesses associated with that line item, are we still at this stage comfortable with that projection?
Yes. Joanne, any thoughts on that?
I am. I've thought about that quite a bit. And my thoughts currently are that I think we'll see 1/4 of sales tax revenues go down. But then once we're through the pandemic, that's going to go right back up.
Yeah, I'd be more worried about end of the year, what we're going to get from this quarter than I would be about the first quarter in September.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yep. So here it is. Here's our multi-year budget priorities. We've been working on this over the last 3 or 4 years in terms of restoring positions with the focus on being able to create new offerings or bring back old offerings and reduce class size, get back to an 8-period day, stabilize class sizes at Parkdale, and stabilize the movement of our teachers between grade levels. Here it is. We pulled back on some of these things that we were originally going to include again to drop that gap from $800,000 to $400,000. So we're going to forego the STEAM teacher at Parkdale. The high school, the 8-period day. Right now, we're still going to have some additional electives, but it won't be enough to bring us to an 8-period day for the 2021 school year. We're hoping that it will definitely happen for 21-22, but we'll again have to wait and see how factors are impacted.
Brian, at the last meeting for that one, you had said it could have been either 2.0 or 1.8 new hires. So that just eliminates all of that then.
No, Bill, we're still looking at like 0.4 in English, Terry, and then a couple other 0.2s or 6th assignments in a couple other areas as well. So it's not the whole thing, but it won't, the 8-period day, you see how that says 8-period day, that part won't be achieved, but there'll still be some additional sections to do 2 things: reduce class size and then also to create some additional offerings. It'll just be fewer.
Okay.
I just want to remind folks, if they chime in, just say who's speaking for the public, just so, because it's they're not seeing who is on the screen.
Sure.
Brian?
Yes.
Brian, it's Kim speaking.
Okay.
I just had a question about the STEAM teacher at Parkdale.
Yes.
And I know we've talked about this in the past. The students will still be able to utilize the STEAM lab that will still be integrated into their curriculum. It's just we're not going to be able to have the STEAM teacher for this year.
Correct. Oh yeah. No, they'll still continue as they've done this year. What the STEAM teacher will do is just kind of take it to the next level, Kim. But they are still working. 2 of the special area teachers were offering some STEAM for our kindergarten students, and then the other teachers were just taking advantage on kind of a rotational basis. But with the STEAM teacher like coordinator, it will just bring more activities into the classroom and as well into the lab. Yeah. So Bill, can I ask you, did I accurately accurately explain that?
Yep. So at this time, what is included is a 0.4 increase in English, and then 2 or 3 sixth assignments, all with the goal of addressing class size and hopefully running a couple of those new electives that we proposed a couple months ago. So that'll all be decided as the scheduling process plays out over the next month and a half.
Okay, thank you. And let's see. Okay, so yeah, I think Mark, we can go on to the next slide. Again, here we're still considering that the social worker is a priority for us. We're not certain if that'll make the cut in the end, but we really feel that there's certainly a need. And we will be still reallocating those 6th assignments. And excuse me for 1 second, I have to plug in because I forgot to plug in my Chromebook at the beginning of the session. Give me 1 second. Okay, good. Here we go. Yeah, so thank you. So we're still going to reallocate the 5th grade 6th assignments to 6th grade, but we did decide to pull out the 0.2s at 8th grade, which will have an impact on class size there. Again, it's just difficult decisions to make as we're trying to shrink the gap. And so that's what we've decided on so far. But like I said, the social worker and the reallocations that you see may be impacted as we bring that gap down to 0. Hey, Mark. Thank you. And let's see. Yes, so the athletic trainer is really a necessity, so that had to stay in. And again, the technology pieces, part of like the E-rate is funded for us, and these are more or less necessary upgrades to our technology. And the E-rate project, I believe, is Rich, is funded at 50%.
That's correct, Brian.
Thank you. And then some other things that we need to maintain the technology for our teachers and our students throughout the district. And so again, there may be some slight adjustments there, but not a ton of money to find. And then district initiatives, again, we're looking at the administrative restructuring. We put the assistant principal position in place. We have a teacher on special assignment filling in for Matt Leibrock. So we're looking at creative ways to support the administrative team. Again, I think we've found, that just that the capacity is kind of being tapped out. Like right now, I know we're in the middle of a crisis, and I think they're just doing beyond an incredible job with it. They've just been fantastic. But I think for the long run, we definitely need to provide some relief if we want to maintain the level of quality of our instruction and programs throughout the district. We reduced one of the clerical positions again from 2 to 1 to close the gap, and also the SRO making some progress with the town and village. So I've been continuing to meet with them, and they've come up with a new idea that hopefully I can share. They're taking a few things back to their groups to talk about it, but hopefully shortly I will know their response to our last meeting, and I'll be able to share that with the board, and that could be positive for us. And then again, the ongoing capital outlays, we're going to get about 60 to 65% of that back. And we hope to continue to roll those over year to year, because it allows us to do a variety of projects between our major capital renovations. And then again, the bottom part is our financial stability, again, is to stabilize the tax cap, keep that unappropriated fund balance at 4%, and then increase our reserves funds as well, which we're working on. So here we are right now. Our current budget is $36,331,854. That's increased by $2,365,424 for a new total of $38,967,279. Looks like a tax rate increase, which again is what we're most concerned about, is about 4.15%, which is less than the levy projection, and the approximate tax increase for a house assessed at $100,000. Excuse me, a house. Yep, that's right. I think I said that right. $100,000 assessed value is about $60 per year, or about $5 per month, and our remaining gap is just over $417,000. And here it is. There's just one proposition on our ballot this year, and it's just for the budget. We'll fill that number in when we come to the final determination, and then the rest of the calendar is I think up next. And here it is. Here we are, March 25th, and I want to thank everybody for participating and for this going so smoothly. Like I said, for the April 8th meeting, we're confident we can have a balanced budget for you. One thing that is up in the air, I just wanted to share with the board, is that there's some discussion about pushing the budget date off because of our current circumstance. So we may actually have a little bit of additional time to have some discussions if we need to. I'm hoping that they decide that sooner than later because it's obviously it's on May 19th is the actual annual vote. There was some discussion about a June 9th date as the new vote date, but I don't have that confirmed. So there was some other discussion. What's that?
Just a question on that, Brian. I did read today from something I believe that said that if the governor was going to act on that by executive order, that he would need to do that by, sometime the end of this week.
Yeah.
And so I would just ask if you get word that it's going to be extended in some way, if you could just shoot an email out to us to let us know that.
Sure, of course. Yeah. As soon as I find that, I will let you know, because that will also adjust when we need to submit things to the state, which will give us some additional time, even if we needed to. Like we have a tentative meeting on the 23rd if we need it. And at this point, I think we're going to, because April 8th we'll be sharing the finals of the budget, and you'll have questions about that. So we'll have to come back on the 23rd. So that Joanne can submit it on the 24th. But I think if it does happen, that'll probably push that date out a little bit. So we'll have a little bit more time, which will be, I think, helpful for all of us.
Okay. I'm sure there's going to be questions. I'm just going to try and sort of facilitate it so not everybody's talking at once. I'll go backwards around the table if I can. Ms. Daniel, did you have any questions on the budget presentation this evening?
Mary Beth, if I could just jump in, if it's all right. We have two options. If you want to move into a discussion, I can shut the PowerPoint down, which would allow us to have that face-to-face. Or if there's any questions that are going to be related to the PowerPoint, I could leave that up just to go back to those slides. But just for ease of our conversation, once I shut down the PowerPoint, we'll go back to our normal seeing each other. So
let me check on the PowerPoint presentation first then. Ms. Daniel, any questions on the PowerPoint? I'm not hearing her if she's speaking.
You want to know what? I'm sorry, Mary Beth, I'm talking and nothing's happening. I do have a question with respect to the contractual. There was a decrease of $101,000 approximately. And I just wondered what that was attributed to.
It's coming from various areas. If you look at the other document in your budget book, it's on the last page. Most of that is coming from buildings and grounds.
Okay.
Anything else, Kim?
No, I think that was it for now.
All right. Mr. Brunson, any comments on the PowerPoint? We'll get to other items in a minute, but anything on the
Well,
PowerPoint?
yeah, I think it's a good idea for us to spend a couple minutes looking at this slide and the next one, which has the revenues, just because we have not yet gotten to the point where we have real detailed information about each of these categories. But I think Kim's question was a good one. So if we can kind of focus on the increases and decreases and get a feeling for what's happening here, I think it will help us to understand a little more. For instance, I mean, it's obviously clear that there's a significant increase in expenditures relating to the contracted services that we get from BOCES. So I think it's good for the community to understand how that works and the advantages and disadvantages associated with it and why it's as high as it is.
So Dan, do you want me to just to speak about like what the services, what BOCES provides for us, or just?
No, I think just in general, if you can give us a feeling for your judgment as to the accuracy of these numbers. I'm not so concerned about what each individual service is that we're purchasing. I just want to be sure, since last year when we adopted the BOCES number, it was 4,796,000, but we actually spent 5,600,000. Or we're planning on spending 5,600,000. That's a significant increase, and I think if you look back at our actuals this year compared to what our budget was for this year, there's a similar disparity there. So if we can get a feeling that this proposed 5,607,829 is a good solid number, or what else are you doing to analyze that number to make sure it's a solid number?
Yeah, I would say that is something that's still up in the air. We've adjusted some of the service programs, Dan, that we put through BOCES to provide services to our non-public schools. And so that's had a significant impact on that number. And so what Joanne and Jerome are going to be doing over the next week is really analyzing that 811 and getting a better picture. Part of it too was we were waiting for information from BOCES. We just received some additional information yesterday that again will give us a more accurate picture of what we've actually spent. And I think that number, we're very hopeful that number will actually come down and help to shrink the gap. And so, yeah, it is a combination of a request for additional services through BOCES, but also partly to do with how we've accessed those services and how we're going to be reimbursed for them in the coming year. So it's a little different. So there's part of that we spent some money this year that we will indeed be reimbursed for next year. Some direct costs that we're passing on to other school districts that have students in our non-pub schools. So we're going to see how that will impact us moving forward. So we're really hoping for a reasonable adjustment in that line.
Yeah. Well, which leads me to my next question. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that there's on state aid less building aid. I assume the BOCES aid is in there. The second line down, state aid less building aid. That is we're expecting to go up by 632,754, and I assume that has a lot to do with our additional purchase services from BOCES, because obviously we're not getting a lot of more foundation.
Sorry, Dan,
services that we received the previous year.
Dan, we missed the last. You froze up there for a second.
All right. Well, it's a question of does this figure 632,754 for the dollar change in state aid less building aid, is that reflective of this issue you're talking about, which is getting the BOCES reimbursement a year later?
Joanne?
Yes, Dan, in your budget book, under state aid, there's an analysis of this, and it's for various reasons. It has to do with the information that we had at budget time last year versus what we're actually receiving this year, which the governor bases his increases off of, not off of the budget from last year. So there's a lot of moving parts in there. But there's a draft analysis in the budget book under state aid that explains.
I'm looking at it right now. Because when we first looked at the aid runs from the governor's budget, it looked as though we were getting practically nothing in the way of any additional aid. But when you look at this, it looks like there's a significant increase.
Correct.
Right.
And in foundation aid, we really aren't getting much.
No.
And that analysis shows where it comes from, where the budget was set from the governor last year versus all the differences in categorical aid that we are receiving.
Right, Dan. I think it's important to say in foundation aid, which is our aid to our programs and for our students, that there's almost nothing. But those increases are coming through the categorical aids that are listed on that chart. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And many of those have to do with the services that we contract for.
Yes.
Correct. It
Right.
has to do with expenditures from the previous year.
Thank you.
Yep.
You know, I don't come up till later. This is John Segatti, but since Dan pointed it out, I just want to, when you're looking at this, Joanne, one more point. If you can back up the slide one page. So under BOCES, the 4,796,000. What we also have to remember is we're off by 811. Remember, we had 400 cushion in there too. So really we're off by 1,000,002. I won't go into it. Half of it could be the revenue recognition versus expense, but we still got another half to look about. So let's just make sure we understand that before we go into the April 8th.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Thank you.
Judy, did you have any comments on the presentation?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. John, did you have anything else?
No, not on the presentation.
All right. And Ms. Ohlweiler? Terry, do you have anything on the presentation?
This is Mrs. O'Weiler. No, I did not. I'm very interested in that BOCES number that hopefully we'll get at the April 8th meeting to see where we stand with that.
Sure. And Jessica Armbrust, anything on just the PowerPoint slide?
No, I'm covered for now. Thank you.
All right. And I just remind everybody, you do have it it's a little bit updated on the PowerPoint presentation this evening, but you do have it in your budget book. So if we need to refer back to it, you have a copy of that in your materials that were provided to you by delivery. Mr. Mambriti, I think we're good, and we can now just enter a general discussion on the budget.
Okay, just give me 1 second.
you
You'll
wanna-
see this disappear and you should go back to everyone's faces. Yep. Okay. You're good to go.
Thank you very much. I open it up for discussion.
This is John Segatti. I really just have one ask, and we've already talked about it, Joanne and Brian, is just to equally important to what we're going to do for the 2021 budget is understanding where we would come out in the 1920, not just the BOCES line item, but to look at what we're going to be able to bill by line item and what we're really going to have expense. And hopefully we can find some money in both those categories, one the BOCES and one the overall. Because without that, we really can't make a decision on what we have or what we don't have for 2021. That's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you there, John. That's a valid point. Anyone else have anything on the?
Mary Beth, I did it.
Terry.
Brian, is the NISBA, are we joining NISBA again? And if so, is that in this current budget that's proposed?
You know what, Terry, that's a great question. We were planning to do it, because the money is in the board's budget line. So yes, I think it's You know, I was wondering, I don't know if I've been receiving a lot from NISBA. I don't think we've paid anything, have we, Joanne?
We have not for 1920, but it is included in the 2021 budget currently.
Yeah. Have you been receiving things from NISBA,
Yes.
the board?
Yes.
A few things, but not many, but a few.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So maybe they're anticipating we're going to join. So yes, it's in.
I think they're sending us the COVID-19
Oh, maybe that's it.
data. And once in a while, they've sent us something from the materials that they send others. I think it's almost an encouragement for us to consider joining because of the quality of some of the materials that they can provide for board development.
I think it probably is an important piece for us to really consider adding back in at this stage. I will say, in light of this pandemic and the issues that the district's going to be facing as we move forward, that having a voice from NISBA is probably not a bad idea for us as a board to stay informed about sort of the larger issues around education. If there's a delay in the school year this year, or those kinds of issues around it that we might not be thinking about right now because they're not just front and foremost in our minds, but it's probably not a bad piece to have that in place as we go forward.
I agree with that, Mary Beth, especially in light of what's going on right now.
I also agree. I have not been a fan of wanting to pay NISBA. I think I was one of the last holdouts in thinking about spending the money. I was a little peeved at them for not being on our page. But I do agree that we are going to need a voice in the room. If we thought the GEA was bad, who knows what's to come after this mess.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree as well. I've always felt that we needed to do our diligence as board members to keep ourselves up to date and on issues, on legislation, on all sorts of matters. And occasionally we've gone to workshops together, and usually those are provided by our professional organization. We encourage our administrators to go to those kinds of activities and to be members of those organizations that help them keep current. And I think it's important for board members to do the same. So I suggest we reinstate our membership.
Brian,
Terry, did you have something else? I didn't want to.
No, I just want to make sure that I thought we were putting it back in, but we never really have had a discussion about it. But I know it's been something that I thought we were going to be doing. So I just want to make sure we actually were putting it back into the budget. So thank you.
And then Jessica, did you have anything on the budget?
Question about timing, Brian. There were other bits of information out there about what it may look like for a budget vote. Are we thinking at this point that it will be simply the delay? We're just waiting to see.
Yeah, you know what? They've talked about some sending out absentee ballots. There's been a lot of other things on there. They've talked about possibly having the board vote. You know, it's similar to what they do at the town and village. Just for this year, because even looking out to June, you know, the uncertainty of bringing that many people together, you know, in such close quarters in our cafeteria, you know, those are the issues they're still dealing with. But the latest that I heard is the delay until June, and then how do we facilitate that? They have not had that conversation yet.
Okay. Thank you.
I think some of those decisions are going to be made in fairly short order. So, you know, if there's a need for us to have sort of a special board meeting between now and the next one, just to bring people up to speed about what that looks like, we could do that, you know, if we needed to, or we could just, you know, inform everybody on the 8th. But if we need to go forward with it, with the May date, we have a lot of work on the 8th, assuming you're going to come to us with a final balanced budget at that time.
Sure. Yep.
And if I may, Mary Beth, the other thing that would go hand in hand with that is the election of board members. And I know there's
Yes,
Then
there was also a comment on that of just moving those board members forward at this time. But if they do indeed move the election to June, they may then allow board members then to circulate to get their signatures, because right now the majority of them have not gotten their signatures, and so that's what's one of the pieces that's holding the process up. And so, you can't go door to door at this point in time. And so they were saying that they just may move that crew forward, and then how that would be then handled in the future. Maybe everybody's pushed off a year and those people are then up for re-election next year, and then everybody else would just follow the year after that. So, but again, I don't have those specific details. Yeah.
I saw a statement by Jay Verona that Kuma would have to sign an executive order by Friday.
Yes, that's what he's saying. I don't know that for certain, Judy, but that's what Mary Beth was referring to as well, that it's got to happen fairly quickly. I believe it is on his desk for consideration. And so he will have to turn it around so that they can indeed make those changes legally to the process, which is a good thing. We want the decision sooner than later.
Of course.
Yes.
Let me, it's John Segatti. Let me offer up one thing, Brian and Joanne. If you have the numbers ready before April 8th and you want the finance committee to look at them, I'm not traveling. I don't know about the rest of us, but I guess none of us are traveling. So we could set up a meeting.
Sure, John, we could do something like this. I'm sure that's possible.
That would work. I just think it's good to have three other eyes look at it and maybe come up with some questions instead of having to go through all that and come to a final decision in one night. But I'll leave it up to you and Joanne.
So what I'll do is I'll let Joanne kind of decide the date as she's able to move through the process. So I know she and Jerome are going to be meeting soon and examining that BOCES number really closely, and whatever else she needs to do to adjust the budget and to get it to that point. So maybe if it's even just a couple of days before the board meeting, we could set up another Google Meet and we can get together to do that.
Yeah, even the day before, for that matter, as far as I'm. But yes, but your decision.
Sure.
I think I think as we move forward, the only day I probably have an issue with is I have one day next week that I wouldn't be able to make, but if we're talking the week of the 8th, I can make that happen.
That happen. Okay. Great.
Yeah, and I'm here all the time. Back to one of John's comments a minute ago, and a question related. He indicated, John, you indicated that that you wanted to have an update on where the current budget is in order to be prepared to analyze the progress towards the next year's budget. And in the book, in our white books here, under the red tab called 3-year plan, there is a projection for the fund balance dated March 11th. So it's a relatively recent projection that Joanne did relating to the fund balance. It's highlighted in yellow as $494,044. And of course, we need to carry over $418,000 of that as an appropriated fund balance for next year. So it looks as though the projection for the fund balance for this year is pretty close to what we have to carry over. There might be a little bit of a cushion here, but unless these numbers change significantly in the next month or two, it looks like we're very close to what we needed to have, which is about half of it in excess revenues and about half of it in excess expenditures.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was looking at when I sent the email out earlier, Dan. And my hope is, I mean, really, it's two things, right? If you look at that policies line item, you see the 332. We all know there's 400. That's 732. Hopefully, some of that is what was mentioned early, and part of it is an expense that's paid this year that will get to revenue next year, which would be a good thing. And then two, and maybe I wasn't clear enough in my email, so just to be clear now, Joanne, the easiest way for me to look at it is I don't need you to drill down on each one of these line items, but basically say, yeah, for 2019-20, property tax items are going to be roughly the 22,574, and go down each one. And where there's a big variance, just help us understand why. That's it. That make sense?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, so it's the red numbers that you're concerned about.
Well, I mean, what I'm hoping will happen is we'll have some other numbers that go to the positive because we've got to shut down now, and maybe there's some savings that will add more to it.
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
So it's wherever there's a variance to the positive or negative to make sure that are we comfortable either one of those are going to happen.
All right. Anybody else have anything on the budget? All right, then we are moving on our agenda. There are no items for board discussion and no legislation on the agenda for this evening. We do have a consensus agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to have an item removed from the consensus agenda for separate discussion? Jessica?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay,
I saw you come off your microphone.
yeah, I'm just looking at it here because I had to pull it up on my phone to look at it. So just give me 1 minute here.
No problem. And I just want to make sure John, Judy, Terry, Kim, none of you want to remove any item from the agenda.
John Seghetti's good.
Terry Weiler's good.
Judy Malice is good.
I'm fine as well, Dan Brunson.
Okay. Kim, Daniel, anything?
Sorry, Mary Beth, I was looking at the agenda. I had to switch back to the only question I have is on the consensus part, as I look at it, we're doing, we just had this discussion about the potential change of dates with respect to the budget and stuff, but.
Well, because we have to move forward.
Okay, that's all I want.
We can amend that at the next meeting if we do.
Perfect.
But we have to have everything in place, because nothing's been changed yet. So we have to have that stuff in place now.
Great, thank you.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve the consensus agenda?
So moved. Second.
By Jessica, seconded by John Seghetti. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
I believe that's carried 7-0, Jackie. All right, and then we have an item requiring board action. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the modified and varsity wrestling, varsity cheerleading, and varsity indoor track for the winter 2019 sports merger agreement with the Holland Central School District and authorize the superintendent to execute the agreement as detailed in the attachment. May I have a motion?
So moved by Terry.
Moved by Terry.
Second by John.
Seconded by John. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Item B is the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the resolution for the annual meeting and budget vote and election of school board members on Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, all as detailed in your board packet and set forth in the agenda.
Do we approve that when we don't know?
Seconded by who? I'm sorry.
Terry.
Seconded by Terry Ohlweiler. Discussion. So
I was
again,
just curious.
Again, we need to approve the resolution as though we are doing a budget vote on May 19th, 2020, because we have not yet heard that date is going to be changed.
Okay, thank you.
If we change, if that budget vote by executive order is changed by the governor, we will come back in and at a next meeting and amend that resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Here. Hello?
Yeah.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi. I have to place the ads in our Be an Advertiser, like for the April 1st issue. So I can't daily because nothing has been changed.
Yep.
Jackie, do you have time until after this Friday? Like, can you do them Monday and still get them in?
Yeah. as long as I beat their deadline.
I think that we ought to hear by Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say that, Jack, if we can hold off, there's a reasonable chance that I will indeed hear on Friday. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I will hold off.
Yeah. And I can let you know and you change it.
Okay, thank
And just with respect, Judy, Jackie, to the election of school board members, I apologize. I was not at our last board meeting, but I assume you made an announcement of the open seats, that the terms that expire and the announcement of petitions being available. That's already.
Yes, I was not at that meeting either, and the superintendent made the announcement, and I also put it on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they did, and they got, who asked for, well, I should speak for myself. My ballot got sent to me. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Mary Beth? If we do get the notice on Friday that we can change the date, would we need a new resolution, Jackie, before you advertise for it? So would we need to approve something like Monday morning? So then Jackie could put the ad out in the paper with the new dates.
Can I add two things to that? One would be, can we approve that now to give you the authority to do it? And if not, I'm available over the weekend and Monday as well.
I'm thinking that all the school districts are going to be in the same position as we are. So I would think they would give us better direction as to exactly what we need to do and to give us time to do it.
Well, I think the point would be, if it's not going to happen on May 19th, you wouldn't need to advertise by April 1st.
Oh, good point. That's right. So that's right. That's exactly it. All those dates would shift, Mary Beth, and
That's right.
it would be past our next board meeting. If not, we would have time. That's a good point. So if they do indeed move it to,
Give us actual dates of
Yes.
deadlines, just like they have now, there'll be a new whole set of direct.
But I will say this, can I just ask, I would certainly be available on Monday morning for an early morning meeting. Do I have 3 other board members that would approve an amended resolution if we needed to go that route Monday morning?
I'm available.
I'm sorry, state your name for me, because
Judy's available.
thank you, Judy.
Terry.
Terry's available. Terry's available.
John.
John's available. That's
Dan.
okay.
And we're all available.
Jessica, you're the only one. You want to be the only holdout?
We're not going anywhere.
Well, we have enough members that we could do an emergency special meeting on Monday morning, and I would just caution the public, to the extent anyone's still listening to us, that would be the only purpose of the meeting, would be to change the resolution to affect the new date that the governor sets.
Okay.
All right, may I have all those in favor of the resolution as detailed in your agenda? May I have all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. And I do note that the resolution says it shall take effect immediately, so. All right, we have our next board meeting, April 8th. We have some upcoming meetings and workshops. I'm not so sure, as I look at those, that those are going forward.
I know the delegate assembly meeting is not going forward.
Yeah, and I see that there's a get to know BOCES
Yeah.
meeting. I would assume that's not going forward either. And the other ones are in April, and those are probably just awaiting some.
Yeah. We'll see where it goes.
indication where it goes.
They've been canceling things, and more than likely, I don't think those will happen.
Right. Well, I want to thank again our administrators, our faculty, our staff, everyone involved in the Board of Education, to be able to get the pieces in place for everything that's happened in the last several weeks. The instructional piece, the lunches, the work on the childcare, having our board up and running and on a telephonic and video board meeting in short order. So thank you all. Thank the board members for participating in this way. And Mr. Ross, kudos to you and your team. I can't say it enough.
Thank you.
And I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved. That was Kim.
Moved by Kim, seconded by Jessica. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 If I can just jump in. Closing here, yeah. So also there are 10 people who hung out with us the entire evening. You know the quarantine's gone long when that happens, but thank you to the 10 people there. Board members, for us to close this up and then, which would then save the file of tonight's whole meeting, you'll just either need to hang up with the little red telephone or X out of your browser. And then if you go back to the original email I sent with all the instructions, there's a final step in that email for folks. So if you could just do that. And then when Mary Beth lets us go, we're officially done. Just make sure you close out of this window because that's what stops the recording and then sends us the copy of it.
All right. Thank you all, folks. We are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Everybody, I'm just going to stay on and make sure we have an exit out of the meeting.
Yep.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brunson.
6:05.